more
All
Sarah
right,
Morris.
chapter
For
6.
chapter
We're gonna
7,
do
I
some
think,
more
will be the
Sarah
cooks, and
Morris.
that'll I'll use the cooks to
Chapter
get into
7, I think,
Plymouth.
will be the
Although
cooks,
the
and that'll,
Wardells and the Applegates.
I'll use the
are
cooks to
Plymouth.
get into Plymouth, although the Wardells.
But I'll use the cooks to do the Massachusetts and the Mayflower connection.
But I'll use the cooks to do the Massachusetts and the
Twining
Mayflower
connections
connection
all the
and the Twining connection.
New England
all the
families. But I'll do that through
New
the
England
cooks.
families.
Going back to Sarah.
Going back to Sarah.
Sarah Morris.
Sarah Morris.
Father was Richard Morris. His mother was Elizabeth
Father was Richard
Almay.
Morris.
Her mother was Elizabeth
His mother
Cornell.
was Elizabeth Almay. Her mother was
Her
Elizabeth
father
Cornell.
was Thomas Cornell.
Her father was
George
Thomas
Cornell.
Cornell.
And I've done the Cornells all the way
George
back
Cornell.
to William the
And
Conqueror.
I've done
but we're just reviewing
the
this quickly
Cornells
now.
all the way back.
George
to
Cornell,
William the Conqueror, but we
Richard
just
Cornell,
reviewed
Robert
this
Cornwall,
George Cornell, Richard Cornell,
Lawrence
Robert
Plantagenet
Cornwall.
Cornwall. That's when I realized that
Lawrence
this was a royal
Plantagenet
family.
Cornwall. That's when I realized that this was
And
a royal
Thomas
family.
Otis
And Thomas
D. Cornwall,
Otis,
Baron D. Cornwall was his father.
D. Cornwall, the Baron D. Cornwall.
Third
was
Baron,
his father.
second Baron, first. So he's actually the
Third
brother
Baron,
of the Baron,
second
married to a
Baron.
Mortimer.
First,
We'll
well,
do
he's
the
actually
Mortimers
brother of
later
the
in this
Baron,
chapter.
married to a Mortimer.
This
We'll
is
do
a cousin of the
Mortimers
main
later in
branch of
this
the
chapter.
Mortimers. This is Judy Mortimer.
This is a cousin of the main branch of the Mortimers.
We'll see
This
that
is Judy
later.
Mortimer.
D. Cornwall of Thunnock. His
Uh,
father's the first Earl of
D.
Cornwall.
Cornwall of Thunnock.
His
father's
father
the
is
first
King
Earl of
John, and that
Cornwall.
takes us right back to
His father is King John, and that takes us
William the
right back
Conqueror.
to
King John's father was Henry II. Henry II's
William
mother
the
was
Conqueror.
Matilda.
King John's
Matilda's
father
mother was Henry
II.
I.
Henry
Henry
I's
I's
mother
father was
Matilda.
William
Matilda's
the
mother was
Conqueror.
Henry I. Henry the
Okay.
father was William the Conqueror.
That's where we went before. But now we're going to look at King John's
That's
wife,
where we went before. But now we're going to look at
the Countess of
King
Gloucester,
John's wife,
Isabel,
the Countess of Gloucester.
born about 1188.
Isabel.
Spent most of her
Born
life in
about
France,
1188.
as the Plantagenet Henry II spent
Most of her
his
life
time
in France.
Not
as
most, but a lot of his
Plantagenet
time
Henry
in
II.
France. They were
spent
kings
most
of,
his time in- not most,
they were the
but a lot
Dukes of
his time
Normandy,
in France.
so-
They were kings of. Well, they were the Dukes of Normandy, and so.
her father was Count of Angoulême.
Her father was
Taillefer,
Count
which is
of
the name that you
Angoulême.
hear. His father was a count,
Taillefer, which
William
is the name
Taillefer,
that
the
you hear.
fourth count. William
his father
Taillefer,
was
count.
a count. William Taillefer,
He's a
the
historical
fourth
figure.
count. William Taillefer, count, were
His father
a
was
historical figure. His
again a
father
count.
was
We don't have his birthday, but he died in 916, so
again
we're
a
before
count. We don't have
1066.
a
We're
birthday, but he
before
died in 916.
Hastings.
So we're before 1066. We're before Hastings.
Walgren or Walgren, Count of Angoulême.
Walgren
830
or
he was
Walgren,
born.
count.
We're just
Angoulême.
about that's the very beginning of
830
the
he was
Middle
born.
Ages.
We're just about that's the very beginning of the.
His father is Wolford,
His father is.
but his mother
Wilfrid,
is Suzanne of Paris. And that's
but his mother is Suzanne.
what we're going to
of
follow
Paris.
now.
And
Just
that's
showing you some of the
What
what
we're
Sarah
gonna follow
Morris
now.
could do.
just showing you some of the.
Suzanne of
what
Paris'
Sarah
father
Morris
was
could do.
Bego, Count of Paris, who died in
Suzanne
816.
of Paris' father was Bego, Count of Paris, who died in 816.
And his father was Gerald, Count of Paris,
And his
779.
his father was.
But his mother
Gerald,
was
Count of
Rotrud.
Paris, 779.
And Rotrud
But his
was
mother
the sister
Rotrud.
of,
And Rotrud
Charlemagne.
was the sister.
so we don't get to Charlemagne, we get to
Charlemagne.
Charlemagne's sister.
So we don't get to Charlemagne. We
Give
get
it
to
away, we do
Charlemagne's
get to
sister.
Charlemagne in another branch. But
I'll give it away. We do get to Charlemagne in another branch, but
Carloman was Charlemagne's father.
Carloman was Charlemagne's
His father was
father.
Charles Martel. Charles Martel was
His
the victor
father was Charles Martel.
of
Charles Martel was the victor of
Tours, the Battle of Tours, to stop the Muslim invasion of Europe.
Tours, the Battle of Tours,
And
to stop the Muslim invasion of
if you look
Europe.
at where, I always thought Tours was
And
there on the Spanish border, but it's
If you
not.
look
It's
at
just
where I always
southeast of
thought Tours
Paris.
was there on the Spanish
The
border, but
Muslims
it's
were
not. It's
deep in
just
Europe
southeast
when
of
Martel
Paris.
beat them.
The Muslims were deep in Europe when Martel beat them.
And Martel was called a mayor of the palace. He was a duke and a prince, but he wasn't
Martel
king.
was called a mayor of the palace.
That's because
a duke and a
they worked
prince,
for
but
the
he wasn't king.
Moravian
That's because
kings,
he
and we're
was-
going to
they
look at the
worked for
Moravian
the
kings in another family line because
Moravian
we are
kings.
descended
We're
from
gonna
them
look at
as
the
well.
Moravian kings in
They're the
another
Holy
family
Blood, Holy
line
Grail
because we are
kings, by
descended
the
from
way.
them as well.
Uh,
They're the Holy Blood, Holy Grail kings, by the way.
so he was working for a king, and we'll see that king, but
So he was working
as
for a
was
king,
him.
we'll
But
see that
Charlemagne
king, but-
became the first of the Carolinian
as was him,
kings.
but Charlemagne became the
He-
first of the Carolinian kings.
Charlemagne took power. He was no longer working for the king. He was the king.
Charlemagne took power. He was no longer working for
Martel's
the king.
father was Pepin, as was Charlemagne's.
Martel's father was Pepin, as
Son,
was Charlemagne's
maybe father,
son.
grandfather.
I think it was Pepin.
No, grandfather.
Maybe father. Grandfather. No, grandfather.
Pepin's father was
Pepin's father was
Encesio. These are mayors of the palace, all of these. They all
Encesio?
had Martel's
These are
child.
mayors of the palace.
He was 610 to 679, so it's about 200 years
He was
after the fall.
610 to
of Rome.
679, so it's about
His
200
father
years after the
was
fall
Saint
of Rome.
Arnulf of Metz. Saint Arnulf
His
of Metz
father
is
was Saint
an important
Arnulf of
figure in
Metz.
history because
Saint
he's
Arnulf
one of the
Metz
few
is
what's called
an
descent
important
from
figure in history
antiquity,
because he's one of the few.
which means
what's
that you
called
can trace
descent
his
from antiquity.
lineage back to the Roman Empire. We're
which
going to do
means
that
you
in
can
a
trace
couple of
his
places. but
lineage back to the Roman Empire, and we're going to do that in a couple of places.
This family doesn't end in the Dark Ages like almost
This
every
family
other
doesn't end in the.
Saint
Dark
Arnulf's
Ages
father
like
was
almost every
Arnold.
other family. Saint Arnulf's father was
His father
Arnold.
was Ansbertus.
His father was Ansbertus.
Ansbertus. His father, 485. Now we're in the Roman Empire now. That's for
485. Now we're in the Roman Empire now. That's for
Aurelius of Rhodes. His father was a Roman senator.
Aurelius of Rhodes. His father was a Roman
450 to
senator.
517. This is about the fall of Rome.
450 to
Donatius
517. This is
Aurelius,
about the fall of
senator.
Rome.
So right around
Donatius
here
Aurelius, senator.
we're in the end of the Roman
So
Empire.
right around here we're in the.
His father was in the height. At the height of the
His
Roman
father
Empire.
was in the height. Sorry, at the height of the Roman
Was
Empire
Worked for the
was a
Praetorian Guard, the
the
Emperor's Guards, 390 to
Praetorian
475.
Emperor's Guard.
His father
390 to
was a
475.
tribune and a senator.
His father was a tribune and a senator.
His mother was the daughter of a consul of Rome,
was
a
the
consul.
daughter of a.
And that's as
Consul
far
of
back as we
Rome.
go, 345
Consul.
AD. But that's in the
And that's as
midst
far back
of
as we go,
second-
345 AD. But that's in
the
the
downward sweep of the Roman Empire.
Second-
They still had 100
the downward
years to
sweep
go.
of the Roman Empire. But it still
More.
had 100
century more to go.
years to go, or more, a century.
We
more.
got some kings here. King of Paris,
We got
497.
some kings here. King of Paris,
Son.
497.
But that's Charles.
His
The
son.
main here is Charles
That's
the
Charles,
Hammer,
The main
Martel,
here is
who defeated
Charles
the
the Hammer, Martel,
Muslim
who
invasion of
defeated
Europe.
the Muslim invasion.
These are all
of
historical figures. But okay, from
Europe. These are all
here
historical figures.
we're going to go
Okay, from here we're going to go
continue with Sarah's reign, but we're going to
reign, but we're going to
look at the Scottish. The
we're
Scottish.
going to look at the Scottish
And
connection.
first,
And
we have I talked about it last chapter. These are
Yeah, the
Lord
Stuart
Grey, and
talked
this is
about
a
last
Stuart, and I
chapter.
realized that it was the royal
These
family,
are
and I
Lord
went to
Grey,
John
and this
Stuart.
is the Stuart.
Well,
I realized that it was
Beaufort's,
the
this is the
family.
War of the Roses right around
Well,
here. Beaufort's are in
this
the
is
War of the Roses. And you notice
right
John
around
of
here.
Gaunt,
Beaufort's
who was
in the War of the Roses. And you
Henry
notice John of
Tudor's
Gaunt,
grandfather.
who was Henry Tudor's.
If you follow John of
grandfather.
Gaunt,
You
his
follow John of Gaunt.
father was Edward III, his father was Edgar II, his father was Edgar I.
Edward
This is the
III, his father
king
was
that
Edward II,
fought
his
William
father was
Wallace.
Edward
This is
I.
the king
This
that
is
lost
the
to Robert the
king that
Bruce,
fought William
This is
Wallace.
the king
This is
that-
the king that lost
that-
to Robert the Bruce.
took back the
is
throne
the king
from the
that-
Mortimers
Took back the throne from the
After his-
Mortimers.
after his father, Edward II, had lost it to the Mortimers.
After his father, Edward II, had lost it to the Mortimers.
What do I want to look at here? First,
What do I want to look at here? First,
if you go over the King of Aragon, Joan of Navarre, Philip
If you go over
IV
the
of
King
France,
of
and these are
Aragon,
Capet kings of
Joan
France,
of
and not the
Navarre,
Bourbon
Philip
kings. This is
IV of
before
France.
that.
Now, these are Capet kings.
Joan of Navarre was the daughter of the King of Aragon. King of
Joan of
Aragon.
Navarre was
These
the
are
daughter
the
of the King
people
of
that
Aragon.
become Ferdinand and Isabella,
These are the
who are not
people
we're
that
not directly
become
descended
Ferdinand
from, we're
and Isabella,
cousins.
Who are not,
But
we're not directly descended.
Marie,
But Marie,
her mother is Eudocia Comnena.
her mother is Eudocia.
Her father is a general, Isaac Komnenos.
Her father is a general.
His father
Isaac Komnenos.
is a Byzantine emperor.
His father is a Byzantine.
Byzantium didn't fall like the Eastern Roman Empire. Byzantium didn't fall
like
when
the
Rome
Eastern
fell. So the
Empire.
Dark Ages
Byzantium didn't
don't
fall
apply in the
when
East.
When Rome fell, so the
It
Dark
was a-
Ages.
When
don't
Rome
apply
fell,
in the East.
Byzantium continued.
It was a when Rome fell,
And-
Byzantium continued.
After Hastings, there were
And-
still Roman emperors, and
After Hastings,
Byzantium.
there were still
His father
Roman
was an
emperors
emperor.
in Byzantium. His father was an emperor.
his father was a general. But
His father
we're not
was a
looking at
general.
his father. We're looking at,
But we're not looking
his
at his
mother.
father. We're looking at,
and her mother was
His
Marie of
mother.
Bulgaria.
and her mother.
Her father was
Marie
Troyan
Bulgaria.
of Bulgaria.
Her father was Troyan of Bulgaria.
His father was the Tsar of Bulgaria, Ivan Vladishtov.
His father was the Tsar of Bulgaria, Ivan Vladishtov.
His father was
His father was
Count. But his mother was a princess.
but his
Princess of
mother
Armenia.
was a princess. Princess of Armenia.
Her father was a king of Armenia. And this
Her father was
family,
a king
the
of Armenia.
Bagratuni, from about
And this
here,
family, the
from over this way,
Bagratuni, from about
to about
here,
250 AD,
this way,
we can trace the Bagratuni in Armenia.
250 AD.
They were kings from about
Trace the Bagratuni.
600 or 700 AD. They were the kings, but they go. We can trace them back
600 or
when they were just
700
dukes.
AD. They were the kings of, they
But
go, we can trace them back when they were
Ashat, king of Armenia.
But
Sbat,
Ashat,
king of
king of
Armenia.
Armenia. Sbat, king of Armenia.
This is 820.
This is 820.
Another Ashat. Simbat,
Another Ashat.
Bagratuni. I think Bagratuni in Russia became Bagration.
Bagratuni. I
There was a
think
Russian
Bagratuni
general
in
Napoleon's
Russia
time
became
named
Bagration.
Bagration.
There was a Russian.
But Armenia
general
was part of
Napoleon's
Russia.
time named Bagration.
690.
When Armenia was part
Asha.
of Russia. 690. Asha.
Around here they start to be dukes.
Around here they start to be dukes.
You can look these names up on Wikipedia and it'll tell you the whole order.
Look
I
those
don't
names up
wanna
on Wikipedia and they'll
cloud
tell
you down with a million Bagratuni, but
what
505, 482, 450,
505.
died in 423, that's
450.
middle of the Roman Empire.
Died in 423. That's middle.
These are definitely dukes, not kings. 388,
Definitely dukes, not kings.
374,
388,
353.
374.
He was born about 250 AD.
353.
Simbat 1,
He was born about 250 AD.
Agratuni.
Simbat 1.
That's the oldest ancestor that I've managed to find.
That's the oldest ancestor.
And the DNA said Middle East, and that's the Middle East. It's Armenian.
DNA said Middle East, and that's
So
the Middle
that
East.
explains that little DNA we have from the Middle East.
So that explains that little DNA we have from the Middle
And that's
East.
through the Plantagenets,
And that's through the Plantagenets.
through John of Gaunt, that we get there.
Through John of
Byzantine
Gaunt.
emperors married Armenian
Byzantine emperors married
kings.
Armenian kings.
Okay, down to here.
Okay, down to here.
David Stuart, Prince of Scotland, first Earl. He was the daughter,
David
son,
Stewart,
sorry,
Prince
his
of
mother
Scotland, first Earl. He was the daughter, son, sorry, his mother
was Queen Consort of Scotland.
was Queen.
But its
Consort
father
of Scotland.
Was her second husband, Earl Ross.
But its father was her second husband, Earl Ross.
His father was Robert II, King of Scots Stuart. He's the first
This is Robert II,
Stuart
King
king.
of Scots.
I mean, sorry, the second. Robert the first. Well, no, Robert the Bruce was the first. So this is the first Stuart king, Robert
No,
II.
Robert the Bruce was the first. So this is the first Stuart king, Robert II.
His father was Walter Stewart, but his mother was
Walter Stewart, but his mother was
Robert the Bruce's daughter, Marjorie Bruce.
Robert the Bruce.
And that's when I knew these were the first people I found because I saw the Stuarts.
That's when I knew.
And that's when I knew
people I found, 'cause I saw
Robert the Bruce, king of this. This is Bruce of Bannockburn. Now,
Robert
a couple
the
of years
Bruce,
ago,
this is Bruce
we
of
went to
Bannockburn.
Scotland,
Now, a couple
and I
of
made
years
everybody go to Bannockburn to see, and Stirling Bridge to
ago,
see,
I made everybody go
where
to
Robert the
Bannockburn
Bruce
to
beat the
see
English,
Stirling Bridge to see
because I'm a big Robert the Bruce
Robert
fan.
the Bruce beat the
But
English.
Robert the Bruce
I'm a
is
big Robert the Bruce fan.
my 21st great grandfather, 23 generations back.
My 21st great
I
grandfather.
made him. We went to the church where he murdered the guy and
I made him
climbed the castle where he climbed up the rocks, and went to Bannockburn and saw the big statue. And I didn't even know that I was descended from him, but I am.
And I didn't
As
even
are
know
you.
that I was descended from him, but I am. And
His
so
father was the
his father,
Lord of Annandale, which is, he competed in William Wallace's time,
which is, he competed in
or
William Wallace
King the King.
for King the King.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just looking now to see which is the best way back.
I'm just looking.
That's not it.
Which is the best way back? That's not it.
Yes, here it is. We go from
Here
this
it is. We go from this
Richard Strongbow de Clare. He's a
Richard Strongbow de Clare,
comrade, age of Robert the Bruce's father.
age
We go from him.
of the Bruce's father.
We
We go from him.
the declares go up here, but I want to go down here first.
The declares go up here, but I want to go down here
The
first.
Beaumont. Through the women, we get to
Beaumont. Through the women, we get to
Count of Vermandois a Capet. He's a Capet.
Count of Vermandois a Capet. He's a Capet.
His father is Henry I of France, king of the. So we're into the Capet kings of
Henry
France
I
here.
of France.
And I want to go back
We're
with
into
these.
The Capet kings of France.
The Capet kings of
Let's
France,
go back with these.
Robert II,
Capet kings of France. Robert
Hugues
II.
Capet, Hugues
Hugues Capet.
Hugues the Great.
Hugues
Now these
the
are
Great.
dukes here.
Now these are dukes here.
Robert I, King of France.
Robert
He was the
I,
first
King of
Capet
France.
king.
He was the first Capet king.
Henry the Fowler, King of Germany.
Henry the Fowler, King of Germany.
Dukes of Aquitaine, remember Eleanor of Aquitaine,
Dukes of Aquitaine.
100 years after this,
100 years
was also related to the same family.
Was also related to the same family.
These are all Eleanor's heirs, and we are descended from.
These are all Eleanor's heirs, and we are descended from.
Okay, that's as far as we can go with the Capet kings, but all the early Capet kings
As far as we can go with the Capet kings,
are in the
all
list.
early Capet kings are in the list.
That's those are just. By the way, there's Rollo again.
By the way, there's Rollo again.
That's the Rollo that's the great-grandfather of William the Conqueror.
The Rollo that's the great-grandfather of William the Conqueror.
Okay. Beatrice de Vermandois, wife of wife of Robert I, King of France.
Wife of Robert I, King of France.
Her father was Herbert, Count of Vermandois.
Her father was Herbert, Count.
Her father was Pepin, Count de Vermandois.
Her father was Pepin, Count de Vermandois.
Sorry, his father. His father was Bernard, King of the Lombards.
His father was Bernard, King of the Lombards.
His father was Pepin, King of the Lombards.
His father was Pepin, King of the Lombards.
His father was Charlemagne.
His father was
Holy Roman Emperor Charles the Great, Charlemagne, the first of the Carolingian kings.
Charles the Great, Charlemagne, the first of the Carolingian kings.
His father was Pepin of Italy, King of the Lombards. So he was the half-brother of Charles Martel's granddaughter. This is half-sister that we went through, Rotrude. His father was, sorry, we did, I just moved it and went back to the same spot. His father was Pepin the Short, King of the Franks.
His father was Pepin the Short, King of the Franks.
His mother was Bertrade of Leon. Now I'm going here because we go to Charlemagne in another spot too. Count of Leon, Bertrand of Prum. Now look, we're at 1670. I mean 670.
Now look, we're at 1670. I mean 670.
Her father was King of the Franks, 654. Clovis, which is where the name Louis comes from. Louis. That's where all the King Louis come from. It's Cluy. King of Nuestra. Dagobert, King of all Franks. Clothar, King of all Franks. Clothar. King of Nuestra. We're back about the fall of Rome now. Clotaire, these are the Franks that were on the Rome's northern borders. King of the Franks, Cluy the first. These are all the Moravian kings. The ones that Charles Martel was the mayor of the palace for. Childeric, king of the Salian Franks, he was married to a Roman, actually a Saxon, but they were part of the Roman Empire, Basinia of Thuringia. It's an interesting story if you ever Google Bassinia. Childeric's father was Merovich, born 411. We're in the Roman Empire again. Merovich was a Frank on the Rome's northern border, and he fought with the Romans against Attila the Hun at the Battle of Chalons, the great battle where they beat the Huns and drove them back. Merovich was Hunnish. His father was Clohidio, king of the Franks. He died 440, so he was born right in the waning years of the Roman Empire. So that's two descents into antiquity. Okay, let me see if I can do one more thing here. Might want to go back to here. Sorry. Here. These are cool, but they're not what I'm looking for. More kings of Spain. More kings of Spain. Okay. These are the Capet kings that we were talking about. This is Louis is now Louis. Louis is now Louis. We did him. We did the Bazaar there. We did him. We did the Bazaar there. These are the kings of Poland, all the way back to the wheelwright, the first king of Poland. All the way back to the wheelwright, the first king. He was sort of like Charles Martel in Poland, 38 generations ago. 38 generations ago. Hungarian kings. Hungarian kings. He's the false Menteith. He's the guy that turned in William Wallace. He's the false Menteith. He's the guy that turned in 22nd great-grandfather. 22nd great-grandfather. I'm just looking here. I'm just looking. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Okay. Roger de Mortimer. Talked about the Mortimers, but this is interesting. It'll take us into Wales. All the history of Wales. Roger Mortimer. Edmund de Mortimer, 3rd Baron de Mortimer. I've talked about the Mortimers. The Great Mortimer line ended when Roger killed Edward II and became de facto King of England for a year. And in turn was hung by Edward III when he took the throne back. His de facto stepson killed him. His father was Edward de Mortimer, but we get back here. They were placed by the Plantagenets on the Welsh Marches, which is the border between Wales and England. And they were there to protect the Welsh incursions against the English. And if you notice, the first one, Ralph de Mortimer, 1198. Now 1066 is the Norman invasion, so this is 130 years later. Ralph is married to Gladys Dhu, who was a daughter of King John's daughter. So she's the granddaughter of King John, and her father is Llewellyn the Great. This is the last great king of Wales, my 24th great-grandfather. So Roger Mortimer, who destroys the Welsh, was the grandson of the last great king of Wales. He tricked the King of Wales into an ambush and ended it forever. But because we're descended from Llewellyn the Great, we get to go back through these great Welsh names: Madog ap Mored, to these great names. The very first King of Wales in history died about 904. That's where Welsh history begins, in his lifetime. He's our 33rd great-grandfather, 35 generations ago, from me. This is the history of Wales, from myth to its absorption by England under Mortimer. If you ever get a chance, read about the Mortimers. 2 branches of the family come through the Mortimers. They weren't nice people. They were butchers, but they did okay. Just looking at Montague, who's a Mortimer wife. Back to Normandy. Verdun. Clinton. Nevilles. I haven't gone further with all of these, and I should. Kennedy. Notice the Kennedy. Again, Robert II. These are Stuarts again. So that's That's pretty much Sarah Morris. I mean, there's more. I can show you, like Edward Sulliard, 1462 to 1516, just barely pre-Columbian. But his father was the Chief Justice of, the equivalent of the Supreme Court. That's all. He's my 17 generations ago. So, I mean, that would, under normal situations, that would be enough to be so, ooh, look what I found. But with this family, see, there's a Mortimer. Cool, Lasouche. This is another Mortimer. And there's Gladys. There's a son, Peter Courtney. Son of a French king. Countess Angoulême, this is how we got to Martel, right? All right, so that's going to be the end right now for Sarah Morris. But you can see there's quite a bit. We get back to Rome, we get back to Finland in chapter 5. So that's the end of chapter 6. And I want to come into more modern times, chapter 7, when I go into the... I'm going to do the Cooks, which is an important family in the history. And I'll do the Cooks, and I'll use that to get to New England. And while I'm in New England, I'll bounce around and talk a little bit about all the New English families that ended up in New Jersey and ended up as us. All right? All right. Bye.